The story takes place on May 19th, 2025 in a dark, abandoned building. Inside, a tied-up guy desperately asks what the soldier plans to do with him. Our protagonist looks down at the panicking man as the gun is pointed right in his face. In a swift, violent move, the protagonist strikes without a moment's hesitation. He then uses the gun to smash the prisoner's hand in a single blow. The hostage starts screaming in agony over his crushed hand. But our protagonist just watches him with a look of contempt and irritation. The protagonist's name is Jiang Chan, and he calls the hostage a pathetic loser. Jiang threatens him, saying he'll talk eventually, so he might as well confess now, but a colleague cuts him off. His partner tells the captain to back off, because this level of interrogation is against the rules. Furious, Jiang Chan yells that he doesn't give a damn about the rules and asks if his brothers died for nothing. He declares that the scumbag they're looking for is in this building and that he's going to end him today. Then, the protagonist grabs the hostage by the hair, demanding the password for the top floor in exchange for a quick exit. The prisoner just weeps in silence, not saying a single word about the password. Moments later, the protagonist and the soldier arrive at a massive door on the upper floor. As they approach the door, Jiang Chan's partner types in the password they managed to get. Seeing that the panel was busted, Captain Jiang then tells his partner to cover him. With one powerful kick, the protagonist demolishes the door with zero difficulty. Inside the room, a man in a white suit greets him, saying he's finally arrived. The blonde man then calmly says that Captain Jiang kept him waiting for a long time. With a mocking smirk, Jiang Chan says it looks like young Master Chen was eager to see him. Jiang gets furious, a red aura flaring around him, and asks if the guy has a wish to go to sleep. He then says he's going to catch him with his own 2 hands and feed him to the dogs. But Master Chen doesn't seem the least bit impressed by the soldier's threat. He starts laughing and, with a smug grin, asks if Jiang really thinks he's caught him already. Jiang Chan then yells, asking what he's laughing at, and says that backup is on the way. The blonde man looks at him seriously and calmly says that the captain is mistaken. Then he states with absolute certainty that there won't be any backup. At that moment, a gun is pointed at the back of our protagonist's head, leaving him in shock. The one holding the gun is his own partner, who apologizes to him. The blonde man scoffs, saying Jiang is all muscle and no brain, and that in his next life, he'll have plenty of time to think. The captain glares at his ex-partner, who now holds him by the shoulder with a look of betrayal. With eyes red with pure rage, he curses the traitor, calling him a scumbag. In a swift move, he tries to grab the traitor's gun, but the soldier stops him. Suddenly, a shot rings out, leaving the captain completely paralyzed with shock. As he falls to the ground, he thinks that the whole thing was a huge trap from the very beginning. He realizes the ambush was set up to wipe out the entire Dragon Force team. Jiang bitterly regrets not having taken care of that informant sooner. He spent his life fighting evil, but never saw that the enemy was right by his side. Lying on the floor, barely hanging on, the soldier wishes he could do it all over again. He swears that if he could be reborn, he would take them all down and change his fate. But our guy thinks that's impossible, as if he could just get a do-over. Suddenly, a mysterious voice calls him classmate and asks if he's okay. A boy with glasses looks at him with concern while the protagonist is still dazed. As he opens his eyes, he's shocked to find himself in the body of a young student. The classmate gets defensive, saying he's not a pervert and just thought it was weird that he was standing there spaced out. Still confused, Jiang Chan asks if he's a student, and the boy confirms, not understanding the question. Our hero grabs him, yelling that this is a idiot, but the kid says they're at a school. The boy replies that it's April 13th, 2015, and other students think he's lost his mind. The students back away, calling him a weirdo, and the protagonist is stunned by the date. He leans against the sink, trying to process the information that he's traveled back in time. Looking at his reflection in the mirror, he finally understands that he has, somehow, been reborn. Horrified to realize he's been sent 10 years into the past. With a slap to his own face, he realizes he isn't dreaming. With a sinister grin, he realizes this is his new reality. Since he's alive, he swears that now his enemies are the ones who will meet a tragic end. Just then, 3 girls walk by in the hallway, talking about some variety show. The one with purple hair notices our guy looking in their direction and gets suspicious. They confront him, calling him a perv, and clarify that they weren't complimenting him. The girls think he's gross for just standing there with a nosebleed and head off to the showers. Watching the girls leave, our protagonist remembers that today is April 13th. He then recalls a terrible scene with a slipper and a bowl on the floor. In his memory, the purple-haired girl was lying lifeless on the bathroom floor. With a sinister Sung Jin Woo style glare, he decides to rewrite his life, starting from this very moment. He then overhears 2 girls in towels talking about a creep at the school gate. The protagonist knocks on the locker room door, getting their attention. Jiang asks if he can come in for a second to get some water. He explains that the water is out in the classroom building and shows them his empty bottle. The girls complain about the school and warn him not to look around. While filling his bottle, the soldier starts putting his plan into action. He remembers that this was the exact place where the tragedy happened in the past. So he decides to check the time to be sure of something very important. Red 1:15, and he thinks to himself that cowardice creates coincidences. Suddenly, a girl runs out screaming that there's a peeping Tom in the showers. Hearing this, the protagonist realizes that everything is happening just as he remembered. Seeing the guy running, the protagonist realizes the day of the tragedy has finally arrived. He remembers that the clock read exactly 1:15 in the afternoon at that moment. With his eyes glowing red, he prepares to face the situation head-on. This is the moment that once decided his fate, and now, he's going to change everything. A flashback shows April 12, 2015, when a crime occurred at the school. On that day, a creep broke into the locker room, and when he was spotted, he panicked and fled. The protagonist recalls that he had the chance to prevent the tragedy that followed. But the desperate criminal was willing to do anything to get away. His past self was completely frozen and couldn't react. All he felt was an overwhelming fear that left him cowering on the floor, unable to act. With a face full of terror, he didn't have the courage to interfere. The intruder then ran into the bathroom and attacked a girl who was taking a shower. The victim transferred out of the school and was never seen again, while everyone else forgot about the case. But it haunted him, and in the end, he dropped out of school to join the army. After joining the special forces, he became a completely ruthless soldier. He was warned multiple times for breaking discipline in the army. In his heart never completely faded. He couldn't understand how horrible people could just go on with their lives after ruining others. Over time, he became more and more merciless with his enemies. Because of this, the protagonist became known as the fearsome lone wolf. Back in the present, the girls scream not to let the intruder get away. Our hero thinks that he should be going after Chen Xiao, but he had other priorities. The criminal then threatens everyone with a knife, telling them to stay back. But first, the protagonist wants to correct some regrets from his past life. He believes the best way to deal with scum is with violence. Jiang is determined, telling himself that this time, the guy won't succeed. Then, our hero yells for everyone to get out of the way and charges forward without a second's hesitation. He throws the water bottle at the criminal, shattering it and splashing water everywhere. The intruder gets hurt by the water bottle and yells, asking who was responsible. But before he can react, the thug is completely confused by what just happened. The criminal sees the reflection of the approaching protagonist in his eye. Before he could even react, our hero leaps into the air for a powerful attack. With a devastating kick, he mercilessly nails the thug right in the head. The impact is so strong that the man is thrown violently against the wall. Even on the ground, the criminal whimpers in pain but still holds his knife tightly. Jiang is surprised to see the guy is still conscious after a hit like that. He then loosens his tie and thinks that his current body really needs more training. The criminal gets up, calling him a son of a gun. In a fit of rage, he raises the knife and screams that he's going to end our hero. But the protagonist easily dodges the blow, leaving the attacker completely stunned. He quickly grabs the man's wrist, stopping the blade's attack. He lands a precise kick on the thug's arm to disarm him. He doesn't stop, continuing to unleash a series of fast and brutal blows. The intruder's face is a bruised mess, and he's already seeing his life flash before his eyes. Finally, the criminal falls to the floor, completely knocked out by the beating he took. The protagonist watches the man on the ground as the thug groans in pain. Cold stare, he shows zero compassion for the criminal. With pure fury in his eyes, he yells, "You scumbag," and prepares for another attack. Without hesitation, he starts punching the downed intruder with relentless and continuous violence. The man's face is hit by a sequence of brutal blows with no chance to defend. Jiang then grabs the guy by the hair with an expression of disgust and contempt. He says that no matter how much time passes, seeing that face still makes him sick. At that moment, a female voice calls him classmate, interrupting his rage. The protagonist slowly turns toward the girl who called him. The young woman with purple hair warns him that if he keeps hitting him, he's going to send the guy to the forever box. Looking at her, our protagonist finally remembers who she is and falls silent. Even after he acted like a hero, the girl asks him to stop staring at her like that. She then says with a blushing face that the whole situation is kind of embarrassing. The protagonist observes her for a moment, processing everything that just happened. All of a sudden, the cops roll up to the scene, sirens blaring, to investigate. The prisoner asks to use the bathroom, but one of the cops tells him to shut it. Then an older officer approaches with our hero and praises his takedown technique. With that, he asks if the young man has had any kind of special training. The MC replies that he learned everything from watching flashy moves on TV. But the cop is skeptical, saying not even beat cops could learn something like that just from TV. So, to test him, the officer preps for a quick hand movement. He tries to catch our hero off guard and asks if the TV taught him this too. However, the MC reacts, stopping the man's attack with just a look. In that moment, his eyes glow an intense red, revealing his ability. He then informs the officer that it's not exactly proper procedure to choke a civilian like that. The cop is stunned by the MC's killer aura and wonders just who this kid is. Suddenly, a woman's hand grabs the officer's arm to stop him. It's the woman from before, who sticks up for our hero and says she can testify on his behalf. Even so, she looks at the MC and says he really didn't need to rough the guy up that badly. Our hero is speechless for a moment, just processing. Hours later, now at night, our hero finally arrives at his old apartment building. He walks up the stairs and calmly opens the door to his apartment. Inside, he finds his mother with her back to him and tells her he's home. But the woman turns around with an angry expression, complaining that he's late. She continues her lecture, saying he's getting worse and worse, and tells him to go wash his hands. With his eyes welling up, the MC calls out to her in a low, emotional tone. Then, without a second thought, he hugs her from behind, completely surprising her. His mom turns around, worried, and asks if someone gave him trouble on the street. After that, his mom prepared a big dinner for them. Sitting at the table, the woman says her son seems off and asks if he's okay. She wonders if it's because of pressure from school, but he tells her everything's fine. Our hero promises he'll listen to her from now on, but she tells him to stop with the nonsense. With a smile, she says she just wants him to finish school and get a good job. Our hero then thinks that this was how she used to lecture him when she was alive. Looking at the moon through the window, our hero lets out a long, thoughtful sigh. Lying in bed, he misses the days when he didn't have to worry. The MC reflects that for ordinary people, simple happiness demands everything from them. Meanwhile, for evil people, it's all too easy to destroy that same happiness. Clenching his fist, he decides he's going to change the world with this second chance. Looking at a family photo, he swears he won't leave behind any regrets. Morning, the MC heads to school like any other day. But right at the entrance, an old man greets him, calling him a little rascal. Along the way, a few girls comment on how handsome he is. Even a teacher shows up, saying the principal is going to give him an award. The young man is surprised, as he didn't expect saving someone would cause such a commotion. He wonders if his classroom will have the same vibe. And as he enters the room, everyone points at him, talking about the door-kicking incident. One of his friends comes over and says his moves yesterday were insane. Our hero then offers to teach him, and the boy excitedly calls him Master. In the middle of all the excitement, a blonde kid taps his pen on his desk, annoyed. He complains that it was just a little fight and doesn't get why our hero is getting such a big head. Angrily, the guy slams his hand on the MC's desk to get his attention. Our hero then faces him and asks what the class representative wants with him. Yang says he was the only one who didn't turn in the English homework. Sarcastically, the MC pulls out his homework and says that must make him special. He then offers the assignment to Yang, ironically calling him Master. But in a swift move, the class rep rips the MC's homework to shreds. With a victorious smirk, Yang states that the assignment doesn't count anymore. He then orders our hero to redo the English homework right then and there. The pieces of the paper are scattered across the desk as everyone watches. Our hero's friend gets ticked off and asks why Yang ripped up his homework. At that point, a big bruiser shows up and says he should redo it 10 times. The bald friend doesn't back down and asks if they're looking for a fight. The big guy tells the kid to shut his mouth, calling him a monkey and scaring him. Our hero then stands up and says he'll redo the assignment to calm his friend down. But with his red eyes, he glares at the class rep and demands an apology. Yang is taken aback by our hero's audacity and asks why he should have to apologize. MC replies that it's because of his despicable attitude. Speechless, the class rep becomes furious at the response. Then the bruiser lunges at him, yelling to watch his mouth. However, the young hero easily dodges the punch, leaving the big guy surprised. Furious, the attacker complains that he's way too good at dodging. Just then, a girl with pink hair appears at the classroom door, unaware of the fight. The bruiser yells that this time he won't get away, and the girl gets startled. He rushes in to throw another punch, but the girl is right in the way. Seeing the danger, the MC's expression turns serious and worried. He quickly dashing toward the girl. Our hero pulls his classmate out of the path of the punch. Right after, he asks if she's okay, and the girl says it was nothing serious. The girl replies that it's just a scratch, but she's clearly shaken up. With his eyes glowing red, our hero glares at the attackers and says they've gone too far. He then jumps onto the bruiser's back and gets him in an arm lock. With a swift movement, the MC twists the bully's arm with great force. The big guy screams in pain, clutching his hand as our hero stares him down coldly. Seeing this, the class rep grabs a chair and charges at our hero in a rage. But the MC moves just as quickly against him. Yang has no time to react and gets grabbed by the neck. Our hero throws him hard against the window. Our hero then winds up a punch with all his might. But before the punch could land, a teacher walks in and complains that our hero has taken this fight way too far. He accuses the hero of enjoying hitting other people. The red-haired girl tries to defend the MC, saying the other guy started it. The teacher tells her to be quiet and orders our hero to follow him to his office. So, he's taken to the office of the school's dean of discipline. In the dean's office, the man scolds him for fighting directly with Yang Tianli. Our hero then questions if he should have just taken the beating quietly since the other guy started it. The dean warns him that Yang's father is powerful, and not even the principal dares to offend him. He says that young people are hot-headed, but sometimes you just have to suck it up. The man then sends him away and tells him to behave from now on. Once outside, MC reflects on the words, "suck it up," as he walks. Looking up at the sky, he continues to ponder the conversation he just had. The MC reflects that even if he wants peace, trouble just keeps finding him. Back in the classroom, his friends celebrate his arrival with excitement. They call him a hero and say what he did to the bullies was awesome. At that moment, the red-haired girl approaches with a drink. She thanks him for helping her and says she's glad he's okay. Hiding by the door, the bruiser watches with a look of pure rage. He punches the wall, furious that the MC stole the spotlight once again. The big guy then suggests they get 10 guys together to jump our hero after school. The class rep says that won't be necessary, admitting he was too impulsive before. He claims that only inferior beings admire brute force, leaving his friend confused. The blonde kid explains that the world is run by rules, and those who know how to use them rule. With a smile, he states that those people become the rulers of everything. Just then, the blonde kid takes out his phone and calls a man named Uncle Zhao. With an air of superiority, he says he has a question for him. Then he asks what the best way is to get someone sent to juvie. Back in the classroom, our boy watches his classmate try to imitate his fighting moves. With that, the kid lets out a battle cry while practicing his moves in the middle of the room. He then asks the master what he thought of his kick, but the MC warns him not to overdo it. Just then, another student approaches someone and gets their attention. The MC and his friend then look towards the classroom door, surprised by the unexpected visitor. The purple-haired girl he saves shows up and asks if Jiang Shan is in this class. Everyone is stunned by her beauty, wondering how the new guy got a chance with the school's knockout. Our hero's friend then nudges him and tells him to get a move on, since she's obviously there for him. Out in the hallway, the girl brings up what happened and asks if he's free tonight. She then hands him a business card and explains that her father wants to thank him personally. The card reads Lin Zhenbang Eastern Theater Command, a specific military unit. Upon reading the name, our protagonist is completely shocked, as he recognizes the man immediately. In his memories, he remembers the man as the youngest person to ever become a major general. Back in the present, he takes the card and says that taking out the trash is just his duty. Finally, he asks her to tell the commander that there's no need to worry about it. Returning to class 15, our hero walks into the room and heads to his seat. At this, his friend asks what Lin Shi wanted, and he jokes that her dad wants them to get married. But Yang Tianli interrupts, saying the principal wants to see the main character in his office right now. The class representative then flashes a sly grin, pleased that his plan is working. Arriving at the principal's office, our young man is immediately met by the fuming man. The older man then yells that if Han Chong doesn't pull through, the kid will be held responsible. However, the MC glances at the report and, with a smirk, notices the ink on the paper is barely dry. Annoyed, the principal slams his hand on the desk and questions if he's doubting the hospital's report. Our guy thinks to himself that he never even touched the brute's head, and that this is just one of Yang's tricks. The man then yells at him to say something, since the report is right there in front of him. With an intimidating glare, the young man leans in and suggests a little visit to the hospital. He stares down the principal and warns him not to get involved, questioning just how powerful Yang's father really is. The principal is shocked and points at the boy, wondering how he's so sharp. At that moment, the office door is thrown open with great force, interrupting their conversation. Police officers then enter and take our hero away as a suspect in an intentional assault. As he's being led away by the fake cops, the protagonist sees Yang Tianli with a victorious smirk. The class representative then taunts him, asking if he can really afford to pick this fight. But our young man just smiles back and tells him not to get ahead of himself, because the show has just begun. Over in the interrogation room, one of the men yells that Han Chong suffered 3 fractured ribs. He then throws the medical report on the table and demands that our young hero confess to the crime now. The fake cop continues the charade and asks why he attacked his classmate so violently. Calmly, MC suggests they check the transfer records on Han Chong's phone. With a steely gaze, he warns them that he won't say another word until his lawyer arrives. Next, the boy asks if the surveillance camera is on, since they don't even have a warrant. He then points out several procedural errors, calling their interrogation methods amateurish. The men are stunned, wondering how this kid knows so much about police procedures. So, our young man demands they call their superior, someone who at least knows the rules. Just then, Police Chief Dong Li enters the room, and the fake cops greet him. The chief then tells the young man that the rules don't apply to everyone. Finally, he slides a confession over and tells the kid to sign it, because he messed with the wrong person. The police chief offers to reduce his sentence by 3 years, but the young man remains silent. With a smirk, the boy says he's trying awfully hard to please Yang Tianli's father. He then guesses that the man is just a deputy chief, desperate to climb the corporate ladder. The MC warns him that those who rise through dirty means are destined for a hard fall. Furious, the man yells at him to shut his mouth immediately. He then grabs him by the collar and threatens him, saying he's about to take action. But one of the goons comes in, announcing that the chief has a call from command headquarters. The man turns pale and lets go of the MC, shocked by the unexpected call from HQ. Our hero then tells him to go ahead and answer the call, saying that he can wait. The deputy chief wonders why the command would be calling now and suspects it has to do with the boy. As the man walks over to get the phone, the MC taunts him, asking if he doesn't want to answer it. On the other end of the line, a voice orders him to release the boy immediately, stating that it's an order. The corrupt cop tries to argue about procedures but seems to be terrified. At that moment, the door is kicked down, and two soldiers storm into the interrogation room. Officer Yi Changshan walks in, complaining about bureaucrats, and introduces himself as Lin's subordinate. The frightened deputy chief says they can't just barge in like that, and that it's against procedure. With that, Officer He gets annoyed and complains that all the man talks about is procedure. He then points a gun right in the corrupt cop's face and says that this is his procedure. Inside the interrogation room, the situation unfolds with the new arrivals. The deputy chief tries to smooth things over, telling Officer He that the MC is fine and that nothing happened. But the soldier glares at him and asks why they arrested someone from the Lin family, and the man stutters. Our young hero then thinks with a smile that although they were a little late, they arrived just in time. In a flashback, we see the protagonist handing the business card to his friend in the classroom. He then asks his classmate to call that number in case he didn't return after a while. Back in the present, he reflects that if he hadn't been cautious, Yang Tianli would have gotten the best of him. The officer hands over the paperwork and orders the cop to sign it so the boy can be released. While signing, the man thinks that the soldier is a lunatic for pulling a gun inside a police station. He hands over the papers, thinking that the Yang family has messed with the powerful Lin family. The cop then realizes that with military backing, the young man is no ordinary person. In the car, the protagonist asks the officer if pulling out his gun wasn't a violation of discipline. Officer He reveals that the gun wasn't even loaded and says that nobody's going to find out. He then turns to our young man and thanks him for saving the commander's daughter. The MC shakes his hand and says that Uncle Lin also saved him once, so now they're even. The soldier then mentions he's heard the boy is skilled and is curious to see for himself. With that, the handshake gets tighter as the officer begins to test the young man's strength. Our hero then realizes the man is clearly trying to test his skills right there. Suddenly, the officer throws a quick punch at the MC, saying it was just curiosity. But he dodges it with ease and the soldier praises his quick reflexes. He then attacks as well and the officer narrowly dodges, laughing at the situation. The fight continues in the back seat, and the driver gets tense watching the scene in the rearview mirror. Suddenly, the driver looks ahead with wide eyes and spots a problem. He warns them that there's a military patrol just ahead, and the two brawlers stop. The car passes by the patrol smoothly while the soldier at the wheel nods to the guard. The officer is relieved they didn't get caught, but then remembers he's not the one filing the report. Finally, they arrive at their destination, stopping in front of a plain-looking building. Officer He guides him inside the building, saying the commander is waiting upstairs. With that, our young man heads up the stairs towards his meeting with Lin Si's father. Outside, Officer He complains about the pain in his shoulder and the MC's insane combat skills. The protagonist continues on his way, calmly climbing the steps. Upon entering the room, he finds Lin Shi's father with his back turned and greets him, calling him Uncle Lin. The man turns around and introduces himself, saying he finally gets to meet him in person. The commander then offers our young man some tea as a sign of gratitude. Sitting at the table, the MC thanks him, but the soldier says he's the one who should be thanking him. With a serious look, the commander says that if it weren't for him, he would have lost his only daughter. Our young man smiles and replies that upholding justice is every citizen's duty. The commander is impressed by the young man's courage and praises his noble attitude. He then places a folder marked Top Secret on the table and asks the boy to take a look. As the MC reads the document, the soldier remarks that Deputy Chief Yang has been getting pretty bold. Inside the folder are pictures of Yang and his father, and the man begins to talk about pruning trees. He then concludes that a tree needs to be pruned regularly, suggesting action against the Yangs. The commander says the young man was wronged, but that the young duo won't be getting away with it for much longer. The MC remembers something very important that happened in his past life. He then recalls that in his previous life, it was around this time that Yang Tianli's father was arrested. Back then, 6 million in bribe money disappeared and was only found in 2024. Back in the present, the soldier asks the MC what he's thinking about at that moment. Our hero then breaks into a cunning smile, already forming a plan for his revenge. So he asks, how would Deputy Chief Yang react if his house were suddenly robbed? The alarm clock blares at 3 a.m., and our boy gets ready for his new mission revenge. He quickly shuts off the alarm to keep things quiet and get his plan started. He checks his watch to make sure everything is running on schedule. Then, he grabs a pre-packed backpack with everything he'll need for his mission. With a confident smirk, he puts on his cap and gets ready to execute his plan. He tiptoes out of the room while his mom sleeps peacefully on the living room couch. The woman dreams about her son in the Yangs, muttering that if he keeps picking fights, he's gonna get himself seriously hurt. Our protagonist promises he'll be back soon and closes the door carefully, trying not to wake his mother. A short while later, he arrives at his destination, the luxurious Yang family mansion. Looking up, he notices the place is crawling with security cameras everywhere. Lurking in the shadows, he thinks to himself, classic crooked official move, just like Yang's dad. After scouting the area, our young man finds a blind spot with a perfect, clear view for his entry. Our hero then sets a countdown on his watch to sink his break in. As soon as the timer hits 0, he steps onto the wall and launches himself over it in a flash. In one swift move, he clears the wall and lands silently in the bushes on the other side. Crouching in the bushes, he breathes a sigh of relief for getting in unnoticed. He then remembers that in his past life, the news said the money was hidden in a garden decoration. Looking around, he wonders which decoration could possibly be big enough to hide that much cash. Then, he spots a fountain in the middle of the courtyard and starts to suspect it's the hiding spot. With a keen eye, he analyzes the fountain's structure, looking for anything out of the ordinary. He gets closer and finds it strange that the fountain is running in the middle of the night, just wasting electricity. Suddenly, our young man realizes something important and has an epiphany about where the money is. Meanwhile, a security guard yawns out of boredom during his nightly patrol under the full moon. The guard grumbles that nobody would be crazy enough to rob the deputy chief's house, and that this is all a waste of time. Just then, he hears a strange noise and suspiciously stops his rounds. The man yells out, "Who's there?" while scanning the area with his flashlight. To his relief, he sees only a white cat meowing peacefully by the edge of the fountain. The security guard relaxes, thinking it was just a cat, and turns to continue his patrol. The feline then looks back and meows again. Turns out, the cat was attacking our protagonist, who emerged from inside the fountain soaking wet. Inside the fountain, he finds the money and understands why it was never confiscated before. But it's $6 million, and his backpack isn't nearly big enough to carry it all. Then he spots a wheelbarrow nearby and gets the idea to use it to haul the cash. Our young man puts the stacks of bills into a large plastic bag and tosses it into the wheelbarrow. Pushing the wheelbarrow, he's already thinking about how to use the money, like buying a house or investing. He's overjoyed as he walks down the street, but a car suddenly appears, speeding towards him. All of a sudden, the vehicle screeches to a halt right in front of him, nearly running him over. A drunk Yang Tianli gets out, wishing our protagonist a nice stay in jail. The bully then kicks the bag of money, calling it trash and saying it's right where it belongs. But as he kicks it, he realizes it doesn't feel like trash and gets confused. Looking closer, the boy is shocked to see the bag is full of cash. He wonders if he's had too much to drink as our hero sneaks up behind him. With a precise chop to the back of the neck, our protagonist knocks the rich kid out cold, and he hits the ground instantly. Our MC says that before calling someone trash, he should take a good look in the mirror. With the bully on the ground, our protagonist reflects that driving drunk without a license is the perfect example of a spoiled brat. Angrily, he kicks the fallen bully and says his mom was right about the father and son. At that moment, he pulls out a large knife he had stored in his backpack. With the weapon in hand, he stares down at the unconscious rich kid with a serious look. He flashes a wicked grin and says the kid isn't worth the trouble, but he'll leave him a little parting gift. Our young man then grabs the bully's hair, preparing for his plan. With a swift motion, he starts hacking away at the boy's hair, sending strands flying through the air. After he's done, he stands up and remarks that he didn't expect this kind of work to be so tiring. The bully's hair is now a complete hack job. With a smile, he hopes the class president enjoys the surprise when he wakes up. Back in his apartment the next morning, the day seems to be starting like any other. His mom bursts into the room, yelling for him to wake up, but he just begs for 5 more minutes. She then warns him that if he's late, he'll miss breakfast, and adds that she's going to the temple to pray. Then she mentions seeing some weird things like the knife with hair on it and puddles of water on the floor. Just listens exhausted as his mom asks if he went sleepwalking again. At the Yang family mansion, someone is happily humming as they walk down the street. The mansion's security guard is heading home, happy that his shift is over. Suddenly, he stops in his tracks, shocked by an unexpected sight in the middle of the street. He finds the rich kid on the ground and angrily kicks him, telling him to wake up. The bully wakes up furious and asks who dares to speak to him like that. The guard is terrified when he recognizes it's the young Master Yang. The blonde kid complains about his headache and yells at the man for being so loud this early. As he runs a hand through his hair, he feels something strange and spiky. His chopped up hair falls out, and he goes completely silent, utterly shocked. With his teeth clenched in rage, he wonders who was responsible. He then screams that he's going to have his father destroy whoever did this to him. The guard mutters that if they can send one to prison, they can just as easily send a second. The blonde kid runs home, screaming that his father needs to punish whoever wronged him. Calling for his dad, he stops dead in his tracks when he sees a shocking scene at his front door. The bully turns pale, unable to believe what's happening right in front of him. He sees his father being escorted away by 2 officers. The boy screams in desperation and tries to stop the officers from taking his father away. Then, one of the agents asks if he's Yang Tianli, and the bully confirms it angrily. The officer explains that he's from the anti-corruption department and that his father is a suspect in major violations. At this, the rich kid is completely frozen, unable to process what's happening. His father then turns and tells his son that this time, not even he can help him. With tears in his eyes, the boy watches his father say goodbye and tell him to take care of himself. The bully screams as he watches his father being taken away. The next day at school, a friend tries to wake up our young man who's sleeping at his desk. The friend then breaks the news about Yang's father being arrested. The friend is confused by our protagonist's lack of surprise and asks him why. Our young man says that what goes around comes around and tells his friend to be quiet. His classmate asks why he's so tired and mentions that he smells a little damp. Our hero lies, saying he went fishing in the river and caught over 200 pounds of fish. A flashback shows that in his past life, a huge political storm swept through the city. And our protagonist knows this event was the beginning of a major crisis for the entire region. Watching the news, our young man realizes that Yang's father's arrest happened earlier this time. He then reflects that his rebirth might have slightly altered the original timeline. Putting that aside for now, he focuses on how to spend the 6 million he just scored. His main goal is revenge, but he knows this amount isn't enough to take on Chen. So, he thinks about making some investments to grow his capital and fund his plan. The first idea that comes to mind is buying a building and renting it out for a steady income. He figures he's been poor for too long, and becoming a landlord is the most reliable option. As he's walking through an alley, he laments not having studied more in his past life. Suddenly, he sees a group of thugs ganging up on someone and complains about the terrible security in the neighborhood. Since it's the shortest route, he decides to just cross his arms and wait for the fight to end. The attackers are yelling at the victim, while the man on the ground begs them to stop, saying he has no money. The man cowers on the ground, protecting his head and continuing to plead for his life. Our protagonist then recognizes the victim and thinks it's pathetic that a school principal is getting beaten up like this. One of the thugs grabs a bat and prepares to deliver the final blow to the man on the ground. Without hesitation, the thug swings the bat with all his might, making the man scream in pain. The principal feels a wave of pain after being brutally hit by the attacker's bat. The powerful impact knocks him out, and he collapses, completely motionless on the alley floor. The delinquents then gather around the man and wonder if he's still breathing. One of the attackers decides to check and raises the bat to strike again. But at that exact moment, a sudden noise grabs everyone's attention. The attacker turns around and is surprised to see our young man standing right in front of him. Without a second thought, our MC leaps forward and lands a powerful kick on the delinquent. The blow is so strong that the attacker is sent flying, landing unconscious on the ground. The others are stunned by the scene, wondering where this kid came from. The principal then starts to come to and looks up at his savior with great difficulty. He's shocked when he recognizes our MC yelling out, "You're Zhang Shan." Our protagonist smirks and gives him a sarcastic greeting, asking what he's doing here. The thugs are writhing on the ground, screaming in pain, while our hero and the director survey the chaotic scene around them. With some difficulty, the director recognizes our guy and asks, surprised, what the heck he's doing in an alley like this. Our hero just smiles and says he was about to ask the same thing, questioning how a director ended up in a mess like this. The director gets all flustered and cooks up a story about being on a secret inspection to see how things were going. Our guy helps him up and pokes fun at his secret job, pointing out his complete lack of a danger sense. He then offers the MC a bodyguard job, but he says he has something else to discuss. The director invites him to his car to talk and praises his potential as they walk together. Reaching his car, the director complains that those punks really don't know when to quit. Once inside the vehicle, he wipes away his sweat and grumbles that impulsive teenagers don't think about the consequences. The protagonist then asks if he's trying to get a rise out of him, and it dawns on the director that our guy is a teenager too. So he quickly apologizes, saying our hero is different, and thanks him for saving his skin today. The MC gets serious and says the old district security needs a major overhaul and fast. The director agrees that it needs to be dealt with soon but asks with a nervous smile about Officer Lin. Our hero says that Uncle Lin is concerned about security and that the director needs some real achievements to climb the ladder. The director is confused by his words. The protagonist just tells him to keep his eyes on the road. The protagonist then reveals he has a way to get rich, but he's looking for a trustworthy partner. The director is suspicious of the offer and asks what kind of get-rich-quick scheme this is. The MC then mentions that the old district in the eastern part of the city is about to be demolished. At this, the man is floored by the information and starts to understand our young man's plan to cash in. Excited, he yells about moving there beforehand, but the MC tells him to watch the road. But he quickly calms down, saying that to do that, they'd need a ton of money and connections. With a confident air, our guy states he already has the money and that he'll make the necessary connections himself. He then turns to the director with a smile and asks if he doesn't want to make a little something for retirement. The director is sweating bullets as he thinks about the risky but very tempting proposal. Finally, he accepts the partnership, saying that from now on the MC is his nephew and can count on him for anything. As they drive, the director asks how our young man found out about the demolition and asks if it was the Lin family. The next day, we see our young man strolling calmly through the school hallways as usual. Inside the classroom, all the students are focused on studying for the upcoming exams. Suddenly, a hand covered in scrapes slams down hard on one of the desks, startling everyone in the room. A hooded figure calls out our hero's name, who turns around surprised, wondering who it is. The figure kneels in front of everyone and desperately begs for our protagonist's help. He pulls back his hood, revealing he's Yang, who cries and admits his mistakes, begging him to save his father. The boy clings to our hero's leg and says he's the only one who can intercede with the Lin family. At this, he bows to humiliate himself, and his hood flies off, revealing his completely bald head. The whole class is shocked by the scene, staring in amazement at the former bully's shiny bald head. The classmates start gossiping about what happened to him, while the bully cries in shame. Furious, the boy screams for no one to look at him as the shadows of his classmates mock his pain. Our hero then remembers what he did and asks with a smirk if he didn't like his handiwork. In a flashback, the rich kid blames some random barber for the ridiculous haircut that left him looking like that. The protagonist then tells him to get up, saying a man shouldn't kneel so easily. With a glimmer of hope, the young man looks up at him and asks if he's really going to help him out of this situation. But our hero shuts him down, saying his father was arrested according to the law and there's nothing to be done. He continues, saying that instead of pulling strings, the kid should cooperate with the full investigation. With a cold look, our young man tells him to cut the drama because class is about to start. The former bully then collapses in tears, and our protagonist just watches him. Bully then gets to his feet and swears he'll make our hero lose everything he has in life. At this, the MC's friend jokes that Baldi is putting a curse on him to go bald too. That night, in front of an old building, one of Yang's lackeys asks if they really have to do this. The bald yells him to shut up and get things ready, because they're getting their revenge one way or another. Next, we see the henchman lighting the fuse of a bottle with a lighter, preparing an attack. One of the guys gets scared and tries to convince the leader to give up, since arson is a serious crime. But the leader grabs him and yells that there's nothing to be afraid of, because it'll all look like a simple accident. He then glares at the building and swears he's going to burn everything the MC has and drag him down to heck with him. One of the goons gets ready to throw the flaming bottle, welcoming him to oblivion. Suddenly, MC, perched in a tree, asks if Baldi, Yang, is over there composing poetry. Yang jumps and yells, asking who's there, but quickly recognizes our guy's voice. Our smiling hero says it must be fate bringing them together once again.